Recording in progress.
Good evening.
Say, is anyone on Zoom?
No, I doubt it.
Gotta pay attention to that.
This is Gail Marshall. I'm chairing the meeting and we are about to restart our LUZO Advisory Committee activities. We had, Matt has provided us with an agenda and just to let you know, the planning board did a lot of work this summer on a rewrite of the subdivision ordinance and with Matt's help, and we will be taking it up again because we're not entirely done at our next planning board meeting, which will be next Wednesday. It won't be the entire meeting, but it'll be a lot of the meeting, and I would encourage anybody who wants to get a more detailed look of what that is to consider coming to that meeting. It's not mandatory, of course, but rather than have this committee process the whole thing in detail, because we've really done a lot of work on it. But I'm going to let Matt, if you don't mind, describe to the committee how you would describe the work that we've done and what our goals are.
So I didn't send it earlier just because I didn't really date it until today, but yeah, like the date, I missed that at the top. This was a summary of the subdivision ordinance changes I had made for the LUZO committee, I think, earlier in the year, but then there's only
The
like
chair up, set its table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that?
Exactly.
And one.
Come on
Yeah, a
down.
nice one, yeah.
All right.
this is just a summary of the kind of organization of the new ordinance that the planning board's been working through. Some of the major changes include the levels of review being or like the process for review, I guess. So like certain projects that are big enough would have a 3-step process. So you come for sketch plan, which is a pretty low stakes, but just like introduction to the planning board, you can come really like in any timeline you want for that one, but it's just to introduce the board of the project, let them ask initial questions, and give the public a chance to get familiar with the project when you haven't put too much investment into the due diligence. Then you would come for your regular preliminary and final. That's for like really big projects in particular. And for small projects, the process would essentially stay the same. So you have your major projects and your minor projects where you come for preliminary and final. Revisions would only have to come for preliminary and final if they add new lots or units to the subdivision. Otherwise, if it's an amendment to some other part of the plan, they could just come for one meeting if they've already gone through the preliminary and final. And then the other major change, well, I guess there's 2 more. So another major change is the required steps to go through for the different types of projects. So again, like structure subdivisions will have a different standard largely than land subdivisions based on the states, what the state's interested in. You'll have to look at certain things for structure subdivisions because it's not supposed to be as impactful to land because it's concentrated, it's more dense. So it's less performance standards for the board to review there. I mean, it's still a thorough review, but it's just not quite as much language and what you need on the plan. So like for a land subdivision, it's like really important to have like test pits for every septic and all of that. I mean, that's still required for a structure, but again, you're only doing a couple of test pits because ideally you have like an apartment building as opposed to a bunch of houses spread off over a large swath of land. And then we changed the specialized subdivisions. So we're keeping cluster and the affordable, but just kind of splitting them out into, or I guess attainable is the one that's already in the ordinance. It's called workforce though. Just splitting them into their own distinct subdivisions and then adding like affordable housing as a specialized subdivision, moving mobile home parks into here as well. And then there's the functional land divisions, which aren't a subdivision by the town's rules. I still have to come and look at files for those to see kind of how they function. But they're under here too, just because they're kind of a specialized item. And the rest are pretty standard. I think we just updated language underneath like waivers, performance guarantees, that sort of thing, but they're all pretty standard for subdivision ordinances.
If I could just like tell you what our motivation is, one of the motivations for doing all of this. Is there are certain types of subdivisions that are very small, like we've got one right now. And our goal is to make the ordinance right-sized for the complexity of the project, so that we still protect the interests of the town, as has been described by the voters, but we don't put people through unnecessary processes and grief. So, for example, we have an application right now in which the people have 9 acres. They've built one small house on the property within the past period of time, and they want to build their own home on that property. Well, that technically makes it, they're not dividing the land, but that technically makes it a subdivision. So they have had to go through the whole application process, all the steps, and compile all the documents and come back, and we'll finally, I think, complete that process for them. But here's just this couple that like want to build their home on this property. We also had a land division in a pre-existing subdivision, and that was a entirely big enough lot in that zone to try to split, but that had to go through the whole multi-step process. And there are things that are small enough that their impact is likely to be limited, and we have an extraordinarily capable CEO, and we don't necessarily need to have a full court press for every type of subdivision. So one of our goals is to try to make it more understandable, to be more clear about the definitions in workforce housing, cluster housing, and all that. But also make it as user-friendly as we can. So that's, I think if you can contradict me any way you want to.
I was not gonna
But
contradict, I was gonna add that, even with what we had drafted, the state's passed laws since then that. In theory would change some of what the definitions are, so like for minor land or not minor structure subdivision, that's supposed to be subdivisions of 3 or 4 units. I may have done 5 or less, but I think it's 3 or 4 units. Then the state passed a law that says if you have a structure subdivision of 3 or 4 units, it doesn't even come to the planning board anymore. It goes through an administrative review with the code office.
right,
And so
That just passed?
it was passed in the spring, but yeah.
When's it go into effect?
That one goes into effect for,
Is it 6
Not
months or
necessarily.
something?
no, it's 2027. It's
Oh,
July
it is?
2027.
July of 27
Is
or 6?
I'm pretty sure it's 27, but it could be 26, because no, it's not town meeting at 26 for town meeting governments. You have it till 27. It's 26 for council versions of government.
but could we,
Could we approve it in 26?
Yeah.
Prove it
Yeah.
whenever, but the deadline to do it is.
I said, yes, so it's active now, it just has to deadline.
Right, and so that's gonna be an interesting discussion where, so on a different ordinance project for a different town, the lawyer we're working with noted that. The law in particular that allowed that may get challenged, and so certain parts of that law may not actually be required. And so we don't know if that's gonna be one of those pieces, but it's like you could go through all this work early. And then not to have had to do it, the town may be like, well, we didn't wanna do that anyway, and then take it all away. But then the conversation would be like, okay, well, even if like this law gets repealed or something because of a court case, like would the town be interested in policy wise to just start
Yeah.
enacting some of these things
Yeah.
anyway?
Is it 4 or 5
But
dwellings within
if it's 5 or more dwellings, it's a subdivision that goes to planning board.
5 or more?
Yes, and if it's 3 or 4, it has to go through administrative review with the code office.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little better,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know.
Well, again, the town could be more like.
Yeah, of
What
course.
it says here is
I could-
4 or fewer
you could
dwelling
Say
units
like,
within a
oh,
structure.
sorry, it would have to be more.
Yeah, more.
Well, I guess in this one.
So we could say keep 3 if we wanted to do what it currently is now.
No, actually, and I think this is a case, sorry, I might have missed it. You can't be more or less stringent. You have to do 3 or 4 as admin review, but 5 or more still has to be subdivision. For the planning board.
5 or more in 5 years, right? Is that?
Uh,
It says subdivision definition, subdivision equals creation of 5+ units in 5 years.
Then yes.
Right
So-
now it's 3
Yeah.
within a 5-year period.
And only units, land still is 3 or
Land.
more lots.
Land is, so land didn't change.
Yes.
Oh.
It's only units.
Okay,
Well, we're trying to make it simple.
well, like amendments to previously approved subdivisions. Right now, there's no like year, I mean, with the exception of what the state is,
Mhm.
like 71 or 3, I can't remember.
Seven.
So technically, if you have a subdivision that was approved in like 1980, if they do any amendments to a previously approved subdivision, like create a new lot, change the boundary lines and what have you, it has to go back for an amendment to the planning board. It has to go through the whole process.
Only if it creates more units or lots. If
Right, that's what I, yeah.
Change the boundary lines, you could.
Well, if you're staying within the confines of the subdivision, but if you
Mhm.
expand beyond that,
Right.
but by adding more land,
Yeah.
that's not in that
Right.
area that's been approved.
Mhm.
You gotta go through that whole process.
Like the case we had,
Yeah,
yeah, it was.
but is there a way that we could change? Like set a year,
No, that's just, the state covers that part of it.
so we have to regardless.
Mhm.
So
See, that's
anything
still a
after
private,
that,
that's
that's,
still a
you
private subdivision. and
still have to do that. So any,
Mhm.
like a previously approved subdivision approved after 71, if you create a new lot or add more units or change the boundary lines of the subdivision by adding additional land,
Mhm.
then you have to go, that's not gonna change.
No, I mean, like, there's
Mm.
ways to really get around that, where like. I mean, if somebody buys again, like, if it's that old in a subdivision, and like, ideally, all the lots have already been sold to individual landowners. If someone buys like a bunch of land next to it, like, I don't know why they would make it part of a new, like, the old subdivision, they would just make their own new subdivision. It would have to come for 2 meetings
Well, I
anyway.
mean, like, no, but I mean, like, if somebody that abuts it says, hey, are you willing to sell me some land?
Mhm.
That I can add to my subdivision, then that would make them have to go back, because they changed the line
Or
of
adding-
what was previously approved. If they wanted to make their lot larger, and somebody was
Well,
willing,
again, I don't know if they wanna make the
Don't tell
lot,
me we actually have that.
I mean, might be getting off topic a bit, but I don't know if they wanna add land to a lot that was already in the subdivision. I don't know if they have to come back for 2 meetings, but if they're adding land, which is a separate lot. That's not already part of the subdivision, you'd have to come back for 2 meetings.
but even if. What if it's land, they're changing the boundary lines of the approved subdivision,
But they're not adding a lot, or,
but they're adding additional land.
right, but
And that would be the board's choice to say, is this creating a new lot or going outside the boundary of the subdivision? And if it is, they can have just a public hearing.
Right.
Or make them go through the whole process.
like, they could make them go through the whole process, but I don't think that would be
It
required.
wouldn't make sense, because it's a lot established,
Yeah.
unless they wanna. Need a septic system over in that area, then they'd have to have a test pit and stuff, but I don't. It's tricky, some of these.
Oh, yeah, no, subdivision law in Maine is not good.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, what people
yeah.
have to go through is just, especially if it's a real small operation, if it's not a developer trying to do.
Right,
It's a lot to have for people that have to go through. I asked. One of them how they're handling it. She was like.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with Nola, actually, because we were just talking about the subdivision ordinance, where I was like, I think the board wants more guidance on the technical, like, requirements of the ordinance, but. You don't wanna make it too technical, because then people have to hire more professionals to do work and stuff.
Right,
And it's like, but again, like, it helps the board when it is more technical in a sense, because then there's at least like a engineering standard or something that has to be set. Then, like, just homegrown developers that are generally developing in this area. Don't really have like the deep pockets that, like, in Maryland, like, it didn't really matter that.
Mhm.
You asked for all of these engineers and stuff, because the developers were just big time developers that had endless money essentially, and they just hire all this engineers and professionals they needed to do any type of subdivision work. Where up here it is like, oh, I have like a lot of land, because a lot of people in Maine are land rich, but they're not like wealthy.
Mhm.
Um,
I don't know,
So-
in Maine in general perhaps, but I'm not sure about Mountains Rhode Island.
Well, not necessarily,
Yeah,
right, but.
Right, that's who we are.
Hancock County. that-
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, Mariahville.
Right, Ellsworth, yeah, like.
Yeah.
Big landowners, but they don't have a ton of money, so like
Mhm.
part of
Yes.
the
Mhm.
do with this whole process.
I was driving past those fields in Lemoyne a couple of times, on my creek, and I thought, who owns these?
Mm.
But yeah, Mount Desert's pretty split up, or the park.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do. And we've spent a bunch of time on a bunch of most of the subdivision ordinance, and we'll be plowing back into it next week.
Yeah, and
And any thought that anybody has would be greatly appreciated.
I just had a quick question.
Or,
We had talked about the town attorney to reach out to, and you said you were at to look at a list of them, but then talked to Nolan. I don't know if he talked to you. But he said that Andy was the right person to reach out to.
Yep, yeah.
So I can just reach out to him.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we can start reviewing that with the lawyer.
Yes, and I think we want to make sure that we do it on as much of a timeline as we can, because I think
You have a
the
time.
last time it crashed and burned, I think in part it was, which is okay, because we had to do a lot of more work on it, but my understanding is that it wasn't clear that it got pulled in part because they just didn't finish processing their opinions about it.
Yeah, I
So
have,
we're getting it plenty too early for them.
yeah, I've got a timeline for really any ordinance changes that we want made at town meeting. This is a draft based off of, like Claire didn't have set dates for everything yet, but based off what she did give me. There are, I mean, 1, 2. I think I have 2 LUZO meetings to talk about stuff, and then there's at least, so starting, it starts now, this LUZO meeting where it is, and one of them sets the,
Mhm.
but, so there's a LUZO meeting in October, a LUZO meeting in November. And I was hoping by December to have like anything that we were gonna present, go to the planning board one
Mhm.
more time.
Yep.
So there'd be also planning board meetings in between all of that. The December 10th planning board meeting would be like the last one. Or no, the second to last one, sorry, before having to submit drafts to the warrant, and then January 14th meeting would be like the drop dead date. For anything like that, because then draft warrants, Claire didn't have an exact date, but she said late January would be when they're due.
So would you envision the December 10th meeting being a public hearing? Is it actually
Either
that?
that one or the 14th, yeah.
Oh, okay.
January 14th would be the.
Well, you have
Yeah.
like February usually, like
Okay.
the end of February, the last meeting in February, planning board. Is
Oh.
no changes that you can make.
Right.
On Claire's calendar, yeah, she did suggest that early to mid-February would be a select board. Or early February, the month would be when you have your select board and planning board meetings with the public hearings to
Right.
talk about them.
Right.
Yeah, because we don't meet in November and December planning board. They
Oh, we
only
don't
meet
meet
once because of the holidays.
Right, okay, I did see that on the calendar you have.
It's our present in the town.
And then, yeah, like I think she said town meeting was gonna be sometime in March, so.
Yeah.
March 2nd is what I have.
Town meeting's March.
No, it's in May.
May.
It's in May.
So select board sending to the warrant committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, May is town
Mhm.
meeting.
Mhm.
They used to be March.
It's
changed.
It's the George
Like
Henry
George
Memorial
Henry.
change.
Donington in March is the one that we're also doing.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's at least between planning board and LUZO, I guess there's like 6 public meetings where people could come and discuss, could be advertised as workshops, I guess.
Mhm.
Hopefully people.
Well,
would
these
attend.
are all advertised.
Yes, by the way, this one was.
Yes.
Yes, in the newspaper.
Thank you. Now. Should we move on to mobile home parks, which we had done some work on?
Yeah, we had pretty much done
Yes.
the LUZO committee, but I don't think the last meeting we had to discuss it, there was a lot of members here, so I just
Right.
brought it back. And we also talked about it at the planning board. Part of the subdivision ordinance.
Right.
So yeah, these are just the changes to help bring the mobile home park pieces of the ordinance into state compliance.
So just to remind people, at the last town meeting, we eliminated the prior ordinance that we had because it was way out of compliance, and we left a place in the ordinance so that so that we could write a new one that complied with current state law, which is quite different than it used to be.
And I think rather than putting it where it used to be in the ordinances, we're gonna move it to the subdivision ordinance, yeah, as a specialized subdivision.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so I can walk through just the general pieces.
Mhm.
So the first, like 1 through 4 might not make a ton of sense without the rest of the. Well, no, they make sense. So yeah, so essentially it's just saying that like mobile home parks have to follow all other ordinances and regulations of the town, except as provided below.
Mhm.
Because there are some exceptions that are specialized for mobile home parks and that the state requires. And then you can just outline that mobile home park may have to go through planning board review, such as subdivision review. Whenever there is a conflict, the only time when you can't be less restrictive with mobile home parks is with the shoreline zone, so. You know, mobile home parks have, again, like those exceptions, but they don't when they interact with the shoreline zone. Or at least the portion of it that's in the shoreline zone, and then no mobile home park approved under this section can be converted to another use. Without getting planning board approval, so you can't turn a mobile home park into a campground or something like that. Without coming back as a new project. And then if it changes from a mobile home park to another use, it will lose the benefits that a mobile home park gets by state law and have to then comply with the town's ordinances.
And the benefits are basically size
Yes,
reductions for everything.
yeah, like lot size reductions.
Yes.
And then setback reductions too. Although most of the zones in the town already kind of have these setbacks, so
Yeah,
it would only have been a benefit in certain parts of town. And then again, some of this is just you know, I will look at this based on state law too, where they are changing some lot size things to see if there's just a more cohesive way to do it, but I don't think there really will be. This like lot served by public sewer. For a mobile home park, they get the benefit of a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Where one of the state laws that just got passed, if you're in a growth area and connected to water and sewer, you now have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet, so like. The only difference, and I don't think this would apply to Mount Desert, was if you had growth area, or if you had public water and sewer outside of your growth area. That lot size, lot size is still 5,000 feet, so yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't make a difference. The only difference is the density part, where if you're in the growth area, you get 4 units at that density, but then you can have greater density beyond the 4 units. For a mobile home park, they get it no matter how many units they have.
What if what if it's just one big parcel? And somebody that they're not lots, but they're like, you know, allocated yard area.
Mhm.
There's like an imaginary line. How does that work?
well, but in mobile home parks, you're not necessarily owning the lot that you're on.
No, you're not.
You're
You're putting
renting.
them on.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't seem to me there would
Well,
be
not
that kind of
necessarily.
distinction.
Well, I think you can do both, like you can have a mobile home. I don't know if I'd call it a park, but a mobile home community, that is like you buy your own lot, you have your own mobile home park and pay like an HOA fee and everything like
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
Hancock has some of those. But then, yeah, there also is the rental model where is like a park that the land is all owned by one developer, and then you pay. You might own.
Like a lot.
You could own the home itself, but you would then be renting the land underneath it.
Yeah,
which
right.
is like a
Yeah,
common practice. But you could also be renting the land and the building, the structure. So, you know, I don't know really in that sense. I mean, I'm guessing. Instead of maybe saying lot, you could say site, and that way, or lot or site.
Well, yeah, because usually in a mobile home, they have like site numbers, you
Right,
know.
so like they would have to show a site like a lot, even if they're not legally creating a new lot, but it would be the same type of idea.
Where they
Where,
have to maintain at least 5,000 square feet of area.
well, I'm saying like the town could ask that.
yeah, I wouldn't think that just calling it something different would give you permission to.
I mean, because you don't want them typically side to side to side to side to side, you know. I mean, there are setbacks, but
So you mean they could be clustered or something?
yeah, yeah.
Like a cluster subdivision.
Well, right, I mean, these are pretty small lot sizes anyway.
Yeah.
And so again, you do have to have 20 feet in between each mobile home. Anyway, like whether it's lots or not. And so then it says provide more, oh yeah, that's just to allow more yard space if you wanted to. Yeah, we could probably just change it to be lot and or site, and then just define what the site what site is. And then again, that way, if they come with a plan, it would be split up like it's lots, whether or not it actually was, but just show the sites kind of like a campground would.
Can there be a shared septic system? In a mobile home park?
I removed that because based on our discussion, the town doesn't allow them anywhere.
They don't in like a traditional, like under the current subdivision ordinance, they don't.
Oh, yeah, so I just removed the option for that from here just because the town doesn't currently allow them in.
Are there good ones?
What's that?
Good common aggregated septic systems?
I mean, there's, you know, like workforce housing, there's a, you know, when you do a cluster of buildings, as a shared septic system if sewer is not available.
For the town.
Do you have
allows
other
that.
kinds of? do you
That-
have
that was a
equipment
lot,
options or
yeah.
something, or do you?
Yeah, that was allowed in one of the subdivisions,
So.
because it was a workforce,
So it's just like.
and it was one lot, so they all shared the system, but there was. 7 units.
They all go to one tank, or they each have their own tank?
They'd have their own tank, but they'd share a disposal field, it'd be an engineered system.
Yeah,
Would that be something to maybe consider with this?
I.
If it's like a shared lot, if it's one lot maybe, or,
If we're gonna allow it, if it's already allowed technically in workforce, so like if there's other specialized subdivisions that would use it, I wouldn't put it in here and maybe just have like a general. Like specialized like if you allow it for mobile home parks, you might want to allow it for attainable and affordable also. As an option, so we could just put it somewhere else, not in this provision, this section necessarily, but underneath like the specialized subdivisions. For all of them, just put one subsection of that where it's septic and saying like.
Wouldn't you wanna make sure that you're writing enough specifications in about the engineering of the design of the project and the functioning of the project, like,
well, that would come with the site evaluator, determining the number of. Units,
right?
bedrooms, and over a certain gallon per day triggers engineering systems.
I guess, yeah, I'm just wondering if there aren't, other than the traditional leach field, if there aren't more modern systems that.
Oh,
could-
there are,
Yeah,
yeah.
that could
Yeah.
do a good, efficient job.
I don't know if you'd wanna limit people to what system they can use,
Well, you wanna be able to reliably accomplish your environmental goals, that's all.
I mean, I think that's just, your basic on the design,
Yeah,
and how many. Buildings will be connected, what uses, that's all determined by a site
I
evaluator.
suppose that's a cost benefit analysis of the developer, because
Right.
you're gonna have to take more and more land for a common leach field. And if you can do it more, on a more efficient footprint.
well, yeah, for
With some more technology.
multi-family, units, the state, so like typically the state requires the 20,000 square feet for a. Independent septic system, but if you do a multifamily, the calculation is different, and so it does try to make it more. Efficient where you can have more units, but you don't need 20,000 units.
Yeah, cause you can have
20,000
like
square feet.
OxyPro septic tanks that ideally, once it's processed, it's water going to the field at that point.
It sounds like that's as you suggested, that would be a separate provision for us to work on.
Yeah, and
It
that's kind of.
doesn't have to be in this.
And I think it ties into the conversation I had with Noel again, where like. That would be super technical information, that again, like,
Yeah.
would the board want to be responsible for reviewing that, or do you want to let the developer have someone? I mean, as part of the process, they have to prove they have a competent septic system that can handle the.
Yeah, mine was just asking, could they have a shared system
Yeah, well, I thought.
in a mobile home park?
I could make that, I took it out though, just because in our previous conversations at the time.
Because it'd be less land, like, you wouldn't have all these test pits and.
Yeah.
Individual, unless people want it, I guess, but.
But I think you're raising a good point about. Workforce housing as well.
So like it
Um,
wouldn't be under mobile home park, we could just add it in as like again, another benefit of all these specialized subdivisions is like you have the option to do a shared septic, which you might not have if you just do. Like a bunch
Conventional.
of single family homes for like, conventional subdivision.
Yeah, and I think that was only because it was one lot, so they were all shared, it wasn't like individual lots. And somebody wanted to get a right of way onto an adjacent property to have their septic system.
I guess the question's
It's
gonna.
saying that like the septic system has to be on the lot it serves
Mhm.
in the ordinance.
I'd also help with someone, if they all have to have their own wells, then they.
Yeah.
Right.
Setbacks,
So, yeah, exactly.
wetlands, it depends on the type of.
I guess if we
Land.
were to consider something like that for these particular types of more densely developed properties, the fair question would be, well, if you're gonna consider that efficient and effective sewage disposal for these properties, why aren't you doing it for every kind of like subdivision? what makes it different? Do you just want us to spend more money?
Well, with the
on separate
rewrite of the
system?
subdivision, we can look at that.
Yeah, that's I guess that's what I'm saying, that it's,
Yeah, I mean, I know you wouldn't want it for like a single family home subdivision necessarily where. I mean, again, like if you're just buying the house yourself.
yes, I
Probably
think
want
that
your own septic. I mean, you could have like
Yes, I
a
think
homeowner
that's a good thing.
association that pays in to maintain a shared septic, but I think that complicates.
I'm buying my house and I don't get a septic system?
Yeah.
I've seen where subdivisions have been, applied for and somebody wanted to have a field. and
Shared
somebody
wells.
else.
Oh,
Proof of project and Ellsworth.
Sometimes too, if there's no land in there or there's no soil in that specific area.
well, that sounds like it's a separate item for us to consider whether or not we wanna tackle at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I can just put together some draft language for the next meeting of
Yeah.
what some of the options could be. How to structure that, but again, I think it's gonna end up being very technical, and so like you might. Just wanna like let the developer or the scientist they hire to design their septic, choose the best method for each project.
Right.
But that should be an option, because if it's in the ordinance now saying it can't.
Should change that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we should, if, yeah, you can make it an option for specific types of projects, yeah.
All right.
We walk through some of this again, so that was, minimum lot sizes for different types of septic. This part I probably would add back in specifically for the shared, because that had 12,000 square foot minimum lot size, and I don't remember what the lot width was for that, but. The state does like provide a separate lot size for shared centrally managed systems. And then. Yeah, the overall project size is limited to, or not limited, the overall area of the mobile home park. Can't be required to be greater than the total number of mobile home park lots, and I guess I'll put sites also there. Plus, roads, buffers, all that stuff. So you can't require like a bunch of extras. Space that's not really gonna be used for anything, you can only, again, if you're gonna require extra shared open space, it's only 10%. Limit of the combined area of the individual lots. So again, it could be one playground or, place with picnic tables, you can require that, but it's limited to how big you can require it to be. And then shoreline zoning,
Is it state law that we can't require them to bury utilities?
I don't think there's anything saying you can't require it, or for mobile home parks act, it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause that's unfortunate.
Guess, I mean, it's a lot.
I mean, I know we got,
Very.
I know. But. Pull.
Yeah, but again, it's just kind of the trade-off of, do you want affordable, cheap housing or?
Right.
Yeah.
I know. There is a provision for like FEMA emergency mobile parks that
That's new, yeah, just to allow,
if we have a disaster. that we
emergency
can use.
mobile homes set up without having to come to the planning board, but
I don't know if
then.
it'd be FEMA or a little baby, but. Yes,
The most of it is just state law,
yeah,
there wasn't like a ton of.
Now-
Besides the mobile home emergency part.
zones in which these will be allowed.
Yeah, so you have to allow,
And all of them can, don't you? With the exception, resource protection.
you have to allow mobile homes as an individual use in everywhere that there are. Single family homes allowed.
Right,
Mobile home parks, though, I don't know if that actually extends to a full park, if you have to allow that. So like if someone wanted to put a mobile home on a single lot, you'd have to allow that, like it's a single family home, but the park is different.
so maybe we need to clarify that.
But
What,
they're only allowed in what, VR1 now, right? VR2,
Yeah.
only zone.
It's only allowed in
Other
one
zone.
zone in the
Yeah.
town, it's the only zone they're allowed in.
they have to be allowed somewhere.
Yes, they have to be allowed
Yeah.
somewhere.
And then I guess we just need to clarify what. What we're required to do with regard to that, and then what we want to propose, what the planning board would want to propose to.
Right, where it makes sense for them to be in town.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're mostly gonna have to be reliant on public infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it makes, again, it's dense housing, so it makes sense to have it connect to water and sewer, but That the state does not, I don't think that would be a
requirement.
requirement,
Yeah.
because you have the option to. Have minimum lot size and stuff. If it's
Well,
not-
what about on, when you don't have water and sewer, what, we've talked about sewer, what about water?
What do you mean?
I mean, are you drilling one big well for the entire, one, how are you doing the wells? Does every lot have to have its own well?
It depends, that you could have a centrally managed water system for like a mobile home park too, or like any subdivision, really, but
Mhm.
it's not required that you do that in here. You could do individual wells for every site, because again, like. You have 4 mobile homes, that's considered a mobile home park.
Right,
So you might not, it's not worth it to invest in a centrally managed system, you would just drill individual wells for each one.
on pretty small lots.
Well, maybe, I mean, they're allowed to do on pretty small lots, but they might,
Right,
If you're
of
doing-
course, single family residences are now allowed to have many more residences on the lots, so you're allowed to have many more residences on them. And they've all gotta get water somehow.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or concerns about what? How we've gotten this far, and are we ready to, I mean, barring any further understanding of changes by state law, are we ready to send this off to the planning board?
Why are you saying carports of non-combustible materials are not subject to side yard setback requirements?
I can't remember if that was in the existing ordinance or if that's a state, I think that's a state though.
Yeah, I think it's a state, we
Yeah,
don't
that
have any
exception in there,
mobile.
so I don't know why the state has that. It's part of the state law.
I don't know what or not, I mean, is it, we talking metal?
Reports of non-combustion materials, I guess it's because, yeah, it's. Just saying. As long as it's not something that'll catch on fire, if you want a metal carport, you don't need to worry about it being set away from the mobile home, it could be connected to the mobile home.
Right, because you're not, you could put a driveway there. But it's just that if you add a carport to it, then your concern becomes combustibility and the close quarters of, it also close.
Yeah, I guess and like a lot of these things get put in where like a town maybe saw that as a way to like try and prevent a mobile home park project, or they're like, oh, well, the carport's a new structure, so you have to make sure that's farther away from the house and you can't do
Right.
your project here. You have enough space to do it, so the state probably was just like, whenever this was written, which was a while ago. It was probably like, no, you can't, unless there's like a fire safety reason related to it, like if it's again, a combustible material. It doesn't need to be spaced away from the mobile home, you can just build a metal carport right next to it like a garage.
Are we gonna have a definition of carport somewhere?
I mean, we can, I don't know if it's necessary, but
Just common,
yeah,
it's not a garage, it doesn't have sidewalls. As a roof. Is that what you mean?
yeah, I mean, it's literally just, all the carports I've seen are. Just a roof, yeah, with like poles on the side that hold it
Yeah,
up, yeah.
Built around nineteen
I think
55.
that's the town define garage. They can,
No,
No, I don't believe so.
well. Might want to define one of them and then, yeah,
Well, we have like residential shed,
right in storage, yeah.
for store, defining it as storage, but not how it's built.
Residential storage slash shed is for building use for storage purposes, well, carports are not
Right.
meant for primarily storage. So that would. Fall under there.
I mean, I don't know if I agree with that, honestly,
What, the carport,
the carport thing.
you don't want them to be able to build carports right
No, I
now?
don't mind if they build them, but I think they should have to meet setbacks.
Well, why, like a carport,
you could have a driveway there.
right, you'd have a
Carport.
driveway and the carport would just go over the driveway.
But it's a structure.
Right,
Right.
That's why I'm calling out that,
So there are a couple of
That-
factors there. There's the flammability, but there's also the livability and the perception that you're packed in a lot closer. Carport. But there's a car parked there all the time. There isn't a huge difference. It's close. It's definitely close.
and that thing, I guess, that you would wanna add in, if there's some type of concern about carports, it's just the size of it, like the carport can't exceed like a certain width or height. I mean, the only thing it is exempt from is the side yard setback. And so like the town still can regulate the height of structures and stuff like that, so you could just create.
You still have the front and rear setback, it's the side setback. And we're not allowed to delineate, like, we're not allowed to say, in that case, it gets reduced to a 10-foot setback.
Can you give a setback nullification from a neighbor?
For,
Like you
Yeah.
do in the, under the ordinance, so
oh,
that's not an option?
I wouldn't allow that, cause I hate that you guys have that.
I know, it's a little weird, it's very weird.
I tried to get rid of it and I almost got thrown out of
If
the.
you own the lot, if you're renting the lot. for
Yeah.
owners,
Yeah, but you're not gonna live there forever, so then the setback nullification lasts forever.
Yeah, I think,
Which is the
I think that is a problem.
It does, it stays with it.
Right.
The property, because it goes with the
The
property.
land, yeah. So like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think carports would be a big deal, but I can kind of put together something for that too. A definition, and then,
I guess the question is, can you reduce it, if, at least can you reduce the side setback to 10 feet or something? For the carport?
you can reduce it to 0, they're not subject to the side setback. So you could,
I mean, can you maintain it, so for this, can you maintain a 10-foot setback if you have a car?
cause this was the language from the state, I'm gonna say no.
Okay,
It says it's not subject to side yard setback requirement,
Right.
that means it has to be 0. But you could put other requirements, like, yeah, it's not.
as one of
subject
these,
to the
we'll hope
side-
it never happens things.
So it's only a carport, so someone can't convert it to living space
I
then?
don't know,
No. Yeah,
No.
it's literally just a cover for your side, your driveway essentially, which again, I can just write a definition.
which is entirely non-useful in Maine.
Yeah.
Or mostly
Mostly
non-useful.
non-useful.
You get your groceries in the rainstorm.
No, it becomes storage is what I will.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Yeah, people.
It'll be like a
crap under
garage.
it.
Yeah. that's what I was,
Well, if they use it primarily for.
Well, that's why then we have to define carport as,
Yeah.
like for storage of your vehicle only. you
Yeah.
know, Something
That
like
would be
that,
what's that do.
not to be used as storage.
Right.
Your lawnmower, your trash cans,
Yeah.
just for that.
Car.
yes.
Well, I mean, I would-
Then you can have a shed out back, which has to meet
Right,
setback.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah. Don't make it a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah, but you wanna nip it in the bud before it does.
I would keep my trash cans under a carport.
Yeah, maybe you have
I
to,
keep it
yeah.
right next to my exit door to my house now, if I had a carport, I'd put one right there, so the snow's not falling.
Yeah. Bears like it, but.
Yeah,
That,
Hmm.
well. I'd be in favor if we can define carports as
Yeah.
storage for cars, then,
You have to be specific. And you have to have something that has teeth to be able to be enforced.
or vehicles, you can say vehicles, and then you get the question of, is it bicycles?
No,
Is
car,
it a
period,
camper?
carport, it's a car with 4 wheels.
Yeah.
I think you gotta say a
Yeah,
vehicle.
you're gonna find
Oh,
people
yeah,
that have
they will.
loopholes.
I just bought this camper and
Well, it's gotta be high enough though to put a camper in.
that's true.
So-
Yeah, are there height?
Strict height.
I was gonna say, yeah.
You can
I don't know.
Height.
Well, hey, my daughter's coming for a few
Yeah, yeah,
weeks
yeah.
and she stay in the carport in the
Right.
RV.
Right.
I think, and rather than like trying to define what's under the carpet. I would just define the height and the width of it and put restrictions on that, and that way it's like not wider. Really than the driveway and not taller than the mobile home is gonna be.
So we're like the police, we're always looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Kim's, I always referred to the CEOs at Ellsworth as the civil cops. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
true.
enforcing-
Well, because if anyone's gonna come across it, it'll be Kim that, yeah.
Right, Kim's
Yeah.
responsible for.
Right.
Or gets complained, next thing you know, there's bunk beds and 2 kids out there. In the summer,
10.
yeah, 10,
Port.
yeah,
Oh, screen it in.
yes, yes. Bring it in,
All right, so we're gonna define carport.
Yes,
I'm gonna try. All right. In less than 2 pages.
definition of carport would go in the definition section anyway, so.
Yeah, yep. Okay. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions that,
have we had many people ask to create a mobile home park, just out of curiosity?
No.
I would think
So-
land is.
Land is just.
Well, yeah, to put, yeah.
I mean,
I'm
you
like,
have to
is
have
this
the,
a-
have to have
common
the
thing?
ordinance and
Yeah,
at some
Yep.
point,
you never know, I guess.
times are hard for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, yeah, I mean, if we're done with mobile home parks. Provide new language, that's the two things we talked about next time.
So it was the carport, and what was the other thing?
There's your question
Oh,
right there.
There-
Shared septic?
Yeah, already, number 7, mobile home parks shall be exempt from needing to install utilities underground.
Yeah, that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, that's why I asked about it. It was like. Well, that's why I asked if that was a statement.
I see.
Now we have. All the sort of little legislative changes and updates we're gonna have to
yeah,
integrate into our lives.
really, this list is everything that was passed for these three laws, I mean, like 1829 in particular, some of it. It might not heavily affect Mount Desert just for reasons that like it already has certain things, but. There will definitely be small tweaks for at least everything. So I mean, like the minimum lot size. For a private septic is already 20,000 square feet. Within a growth area. Or we have to spell that out really, but the state already says you can't have. Smaller than 20,000 square feet, so the town currently. But again, I'm pretty sure, I could, we have to be fine here.
That's no dwelling unit.
I think in the growth
density?
area, 20,000 square feet is already like the
Yeah,
smallest size. But that one might not have a large impact, but then the. Rest of the growth area stuff would have pretty big impact.
all residential lots must allow 3 units, 4 units if in a growth area or served by sewer and water. And the last legislature said 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, so
Now
I'm
they're up
still
to
not
2.
clear how, what they mean by that, where like, in theory. I'm pretty sure they mean something pretty wild, but in theory, like they could be saying you have to allow 4 units, you just can't tell people they can't have 4 units, so like. If you have a big enough lot based on the density, you already are allowed to have 4 units in Mount Desert, there's no cap on like the number of.
Right,
Units besides the density requirements, because in addition to the saying the 4 units, they spell out the density and stuff, so like.
like if I own 4 acres in. I'm village residential 1. I can already. 4.
But like if you allow a lot, say in a town or city, they allow lots that are smaller than 5,000 square feet. The state's not telling you you have to then fit 4 units on like the 3,000 square feet. They're just saying the density for that 3,000 square feet can't exceed 1,250 square feet per unit. So you could fit 2 units on that 3,000 square feet. But again, if you have your biggest lot in that zone now can't be more than 5,000 square feet.
Right,
Or
and that's for sewer.
You can't require it to be bigger than 5,000 square feet. Someone could choose to have a lot bigger than 5,000 square feet, but. For the first 4 units, their density would still be 1,250 per unit, for the first 4.
Right,
And then ADU,
Well, the ADU, you get one that's exempt
a
from,
lot, yep.
yeah, from, density, but then the rest after have to follow, yeah.
can you remind me in practicality what the difference is between an ADU and an additional?
So
Density.
it's again, it's really about how you define it all. So like most towns will say that an ADU has a size limit.
Mhm.
So that it is clear that it's incidental to the primary dwelling
primary
unit on the
residence.
lot. And again, so yeah, you're not just building or trying to build 2 dwelling units and saying one's an accessory.
And you're not
one's
dividing the
clearly not.
lot.
Well, you
or
could
are you-
divide, I mean, I wouldn't, I mean, we'd divide a lot like creating 2 lots when there was one.
Yeah, with an
I
ADU,
mean, well, an ADU doesn't automatically do that, so like you could build another unit on a lot without splitting it,
right,
and just rent them both or something like
but
that.
could you split it with it and have it be an ADU?
No,
Okay.
You split the lot and the
Have to have a
ADU,
Then it's
Acceptable.
separate, then it's a separate,
it's just a separate.
okay. So an ADU is incidental to
Primary.
primary
Yeah.
residence,
So, but yeah, the way that most towns do that is by setting size limits.
right,
Which we have now.
Right, so it's
Right.
usually like a percentage of the primary or like a set square footage, and whichever is more restrictive is what you have to follow.
right,
Um, But then. A ADU, even though it doesn't, it's exempt from the density, it does count towards those 4 units, so. Again,
Oh.
you can have your 5,000 square feet and you can fit 3 more units on there that have to follow the density, but even though the 4th one is exempt, it still counts as, if it's an ADU, it still counts as the 4th unit.
Because it doesn't have to meet the minimum. 1250.
I mean, in theory, it would anyway, but like it doesn't technically have to.
but are those new lots? Are those allowed to be new lots, or I can,
No,
if I have this lot, I can
You
put,
cannot make lots that are 12,000 or 1,250 square feet. It has to be a 5,000 square foot lot, and then you can fit 4 units on it, with the density being 1,250.
and you could
square feet
condo
per
them
unit.
and other individuals will own them?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with the
You
units.
condo, yeah, you can condo do those, but as long as the land stays one. lot.
Right.
But the land stays, one, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that will be something that, again. The town can talk about if it wants to start getting work done on that now or not, but if that's like overturned, that might be something that doesn't have to be enforced. But it could be something or something similar, I might want to explore doing for the growth area with public water and sewer anyway. It'd just be a matter of what numbers make sense for the town. Like I could just run through
Mhm.
and show what that would look like, and that wouldn't take too much time to just
Mhm.
kind of go through and. And the town is going through a comp plan right now, so like updating the growth area to make a little bit, to match all this up with where the town thinks it makes sense for this type of regulation to be. Would be a good idea too. 'Cause I think I did look at that already, and there's only like one part of the growth area that doesn't have water and sewer.
Thomasville doesn't have water. I keep bringing it up, it's like, we don't have water, we're having a big problem right now, and we don't have water.
East Harbor area, there's only one part of that part of the growth area that doesn't have water and sewer, but it's technically growth area zoned. And like, that could just easily be cut out of the growth area though.
Right.
Um,
Water,
It's a
give us
lot,
water.
like, well, I forget
Mm.
what the lot is, Noel told me like what was on it, and it just didn't make sense to be part of the growth area.
Right,
But like essentially it's just built for like, you think about where you'd want. Your densest housing and then essentially limiting your growth area to those types of places.
right,
And I mean, again, if you don't have that, if you have water and sewer that's then cut out of your growth area, you still have the 5,000 square foot minimum lot size, but. You only get 1 unit per 5,000 square feet instead of 4.
I mean, you could commit to a place like Somersville becoming a growth area, as long as you're also committing to an actual plan. To provide water to that growth area, I mean, we could decide that's a laudable goal, and then what's the plan to actually actualize?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the way the state law is interacting with like the term growth area, I wouldn't do that. Because then you might have a plan to provide water and sewer there eventually, but even before you do provide that. Water, because it already has sewer. You'd still have to follow the new. Like state requirements because it's in a growth area.
Even though a growth area is defined as something that provides public water and sewer, or does it not do that?
It's not defined as, it's just if a lot is in the growth area with water and sewer, it has to do the 5,000 square feet with. 4 units at a density of
Right,
1,250, but if it's in a growth area without both public water and sewer, you have to allow the 5,000 square feet minimum lot size still. But you have to allow 1 unit per 5,000 square feet. So if the town's not ready for Simsville to have that type of density even, they might not wanna put it in the
I see,
growth area.
I see,
Yeah,
well, but that still could, all right, so
So,
that
but
could still be a goal.
you can have a goal of
Right,
eventually
right,
having that.
of
be the
providing
growth
the
area.
water to,
Right.
where in town would you like to provide public water to facilitate greater density?
Yeah.
If just generally speaking, okay, thank you.
Um, Yeah, so that'll be
That'll
an
be easy.
interesting piece. Well, I don't know if it'll be, but it'll be
No.
interesting.
No, joke.
And then, so besides the growth area piece or the density and lot size.
You can do that when I'm
pieces,
gone.
There's the, mobile home or not, mobile home, sorry, affordable housing gets a couple extra bonuses. So there's a, just increasing it to a 2.5 times base density, which I think the town already does. For affordable housing, projects throughout the town, no matter where they are. And then, the height for affordable housing, the town has to require at minimum a 14-foot height bonus, which is essentially one more story. To affordable housing projects, so if the like height limits 30 feet. Nope, no, not that, the height
It's
limit,
40 in inland, but you can't exceed 35 in shoreline.
yeah, again, shoreland is
No gun.
restricting all of this, yeah. It's always the one that you follow if you're in the shoreline zone. Yeah, so if it's 40 feet, you have to allow affordable housing to be at least 54 feet high.
So how does that,
54 feet or.
yeah,
Mhm.
so how?
Mhm.
We have a 40-foot limitation in the zoning, land use zoning ordinance, how does that? If that, they have to, if you have to add 10 more or 14 more feet, how, isn't that conflicting?
No, so like in the subdivision section or in the subdivision ordinance underneath the affordable housing, you would just say like, oh. You know, when you're listing the other benefits that I guess you just say affordable housing projects gain a 14-foot. Height bonus.
I guess a
With the base height requirement.
planning board can allow higher buildings inland. With conditional use approval.
Right.
I don't make them go through all that.
No, but I'm, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
so I suppose,
I mean, is there a height limit that the planning board can grant or?
no, conditional use, they could allow.
100?
I mean, we just,
We don't
yeah.
want
you
guide
could- I mean, we
papers,
just
but-
They'd like a foot for someone who was building in the woods.
Yeah, well, actually, it was, no,
Something
was
like
it,
that.
it was just, yeah, it was 41 or something like that.
Yeah.
41 or 42 feet.
Yeah, it wasn't much. It
Well,
was,
I mean, I guess that's a policy choice, and you can just have them go through the process that already exists. I'm
Oh, no,
probably,
I just didn't know if that
Yeah.
would conflict. Cause
No,
one,
I-
your land use says this and now,
then I would, yeah, I would just create a special provision under affordable housing with this specific language. and then
Footnote or
in
something,
the
yeah.
Other one, just say like, for affordable housing, height. Bonuses C, and then send them to this cross-reference. And then
No.
say for all other structures that this applies.
how does our working up the subdivision ordinance to have several, a couple of different types? We had affordable housing and we had
Attainable.
attainable housing.
Yeah.
So how? Maybe people should understand what the differences are.
Yeah, it's really just an income difference.
Yeah.
Where affordable housing is the HUD definition of affordable,
It's what the state means when they talk about greater density.
and so when the state talks about affordable housing, it's the same definition that HUD uses, so that's what we've applied to the ordinance as well. And then
Mhm.
attainable is,
Is it like 80%?
it's 80%
Of-
yeah.
Average income?
And then for attainable, I think, I forget exactly what
Was
we,
it 120?
no, I think we made it higher than that.
Okay.
We may have made it higher, I think 120 is actually affordable, it's 80% AMI for renting and then. For purchase, it's one of those, and 120% for rent, the other one.
Okay.
And then of attainable, we changed to be higher to allow like people making like $70,000 a year to be able to buy and stuff like that.
Right, right.
Uh, Which they wouldn't have been able to under. the-
And they get a density bonus.
They get a density bonus, but it's different than,
It's different.
The
It's
state
not,
doesn't-
it's not as intense as the state.
right, the state doesn't do anything with attainable housing, they only give bonuses to affordable housing.
Right.
And so the town would have been making a decision.
And so we're
They're-
trying to change that like that. So it's not workforce housing, it's affordable housing and it's not.
It's not workforce housing, it's attainable housing,
Yeah.
affordable housing is still its own thing.
Right.
All very clear, right?
Completely.
I just don't understand why there's so many different types of subdivisions. They
Mhm.
make it so complicated,
Mhm.
trying to calculate,
Yeah,
that. And the bonus, the bonuses, it's 75%, you get this, and 100% you get, it's
Yeah.
like,
well, we could change that, I mean, that was really the town,
it's just complicated,
yeah,
that's all.
cause like,
When someone comes in, yeah, I got this lot, this is what I want.
Incentivize, there are different things, I guess. For like. Again, I think like in the way the ordinance is currently drafted, we have like all green space isn't required for some of these types of subdivisions. Like if you do provide green space, we'll give you another bonus because we want you to provide like a place for picnic tables. And
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
have a common area.
Quality of life stuff, yeah.
I mean, obviously, a lot of this stuff. Everybody needs it, but it's more intensively appropriate in other parts of the state. Than it is.
Than here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in that
Yeah.
it's trying to stimulate in the southern Maine larger.
Yeah.
Projects for.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, right,
I mean, we've got as a huge problem, but
This is a pretty sweeping bill, and that's why it's probably gonna get challenged in a lot of different ways. So we'll see, like.
problem is you can't write a piece of legislation that says in Cumberland County, you have to allow
Well,
this.
good, we just, Maine loves its own law, we don't organize things by the
But-
county level.
Yeah,
So it makes it a little bit more difficult to get everybody like on the same page that
right,
way.
right. I mean, from the state point of view, is to do that. Okay. So,
And then, yeah, planning board review, that was the part about for reviewing dwelling units within, it's within one structure too, so if you build like 4 different houses on the same lot. That still is a subdivision and goes to the planning board, but if it's within one structure. It gets the administrative review. And then accessory dwelling units. I think again, like this, I think the town doesn't really have anything to do with this, but. Well, you might, Kimmy probably know better than I would, but allowing ADUs on non-conforming lots, I think you already would allow one ADU on a non-conforming lot anyway, right?
Yeah, before we didn't, it used to have to meet the minimum lot area, but we changed it.
Yeah, so that was already done, but I think other towns just didn't, so the state threw that in, and. You have to allow ADU, you can't have an owner occupancy requirement, for the lot that an ADU is built on, so. Again, other.
which is
towns-
a great help to. A town that's trying to maintain year-round housing,
Well,
such as it is.
I don't know, like. You could definitely like regulate short-term rentals in other ways without like having a owner occupancy requirement for the AD, like the lot that the ADU is on, like. You could still limit the use of an ADU as a short-term rental without necessarily limiting this, so there's just the state telling you that you have to find other ways of controlling them. Because I think there were a lot of people that were trying to build ADUs in other, again, like in a bunch of other towns. That. Again, maybe they didn't live on the lot, but they maybe lived in town, just happened to own the lot and were trying to build an ADU, but then the town was like, well, we don't want all these ADUs. Even if it was gonna be used for year-round housing. And we're trying to restrict them that way, and so I think the state was just trying to cut that off. Yeah,
I guess one thing that always troubles me about all of these greater density requirements, they are obviously designed as a matter of public policy to encourage affordable housing for people to live in. And yet, a lot of this stuff in nowhere in these is it requiring that the properties be used for year-round residences.
because again, Maine loves its home rule, like the town can start to regulate.
And I think the town needs to grapple with that. I think,
Yeah.
I don't know why we're allowing things to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. If we're not accomplishing the goal that everybody says is our biggest goal, which is affordability for people to be able to live here, so they're not. Coming down Route 3 every day en masse to
Yeah.
be our plumbers. You know, or teachers or even
Planning consultant.
doctors,
Planning
and lawyers and
consultant,
planning
yeah,
consultants.
yeah.
and- Yeah, I mean.
I live in Trenton, so.
I'm to the point when the
Mhm.
guy who is the director of the ER cannot afford to buy a house here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just like,
That might be a little bit more complicated, because rural medicines now.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like a town can make other provisions that require. You know, again, like there's always in comp plans, it's been a requirement to have 10% of housing, new housing that's built be affordable, but it's always just a goal. In a comp plan, it's not law, the town could
Right.
look to make like a law that says something like that. And I don't know how the mechanisms to actually enforce that law would be where,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you?
well, I'm hoping we're gonna get to that discussion sooner rather than later in the comp plan process.
but then the town could.
So the town can
consent
decide, I mean, if
more.
the town doesn't wanna do it, the town doesn't wanna do it, but. I guess if the town doesn't wanna do any stuff like this, my attitude is stop complaining about affordability,
Yeah, I mean,
like, stop it.
I could just say like, you know, a lot of the things that are in 1829, are new to Maine, but they're not new to the US, so like other states have implemented those policies and. You know, I'm a policy guy, so it hurts to say this a little bit, but like these policies don't really move the needle that much. You have to couple it with like resources to encourage housing.
Mhm.
That's really the only way to get more housing and to like
Yeah,
get
like
people to build affordable housing.
bonuses
Right.
and, you know, financing through the banks and. I mean, that's gotta be some kind of an encouragement there. It's not there. So
Oh, there's a lot of excess capital around like that.
Well, on the island,
Plenty
yes,
of-
but there's no room for housing.
yeah, but you get the bonus, you know, ADU and it goes right to a rental.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, you can limit short-term rentals, you just can't say it's an occupancy requirement.
We try to do a short.
Oh, I know.
I know. I do think we need to re-energize that discussion, but that's just me.
Yeah.
And maybe do it a little differently.
No, it
I
wasn't.
think there was
ready.
some specific.
It wasn't
objections.
ready
Right,
when it was presented.
Mhm. I think it needs a.
But I, you know, I don't wanna regulate it, so it's all good. All good.
I see.
Good.
a third person.
Okay,
Yeah, and so the last parts are just, you can't, sprinklers are a requirement in ADUs that are attached to 1 or 2 family housing units. Mostly because like triplexes aren't required, whether it's an ADU or not, triplexes don't need sprinklers, you can have firewall, 2-hour firewall in between.
I thought multi needed them. Is that
By NFPA,
4 or more?
yeah, it's 4 or more, because a triplex, you can have a 2-hour firewall, maybe it's a 3-hour firewall, but it's one of those higher rated firewalls in between.
Yeah.
The second and third.
Each unit, and it's gotta go to the basement.
It's only between
Doesn't
second
it?
and third unit. So 2 units can burn to the ground as long as the third's not,
Does that make sense?
no,
Okay,
but you can't require sprinklers.
there is a compromises.
well, they don't allow, I mean, they don't require them now under 1 and 2 families.
But saying the ADU doesn't need it.
Now, ADUs do not have to be attached, right?
No,
No, they do not have to be, yeah. They can be, but, and then subdivision definition, this part actually didn't make it, I have to remove this part, no. Or sorry, no, it's just units, yeah, it's 5 or more units, that's the same as the administrative review part, so yeah, 5 or more units in the same structure.
Christian.
I thought you said it was 5,
No, a subdivision is 5
yeah,
or more.
5 plus units,
Yeah.
but lots of 3 or more.
Right, but it's really 5 or more units in the same structure are still a subdivision, because it's only 3 or 4 units in the same structure are not, but if it's 3 or 4 units that are separate units, it's still a subdivision.
Oh my God.
My,
So-
you need like
Yeah.
notes to every,
Yes.
keep it all straight.
I mean, yeah,
Well, it's the way it's written, you know, it's not.
it's not,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I mean,
yeah.
and then you got, right, that's what I thought things were supposed to be getting clearer.
Did you think that?
No, well, yes, no, yes,
Hopefully
true,
we
true.
can.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
5 or more in the same unit, but if they were separate units,
yes.
but what is no longer, so what's always been a subdivision is 5 or more lots. And 5 or more units, regardless of if they're in the same structure or not. Or 3 or more units, sorry, whether or not they're in the same structure or not. Now, what is not a subdivision is. Anything that's less than 3 lots, so 2 lots.
Yep.
from-
That hasn't
just have 2
changed.
lots.
that doesn't change. Yeah.
Hasn't changed with all those exceptions that already exist. If it's, but now if it's 3 or 4 units within the same structure, it's
That's
not a
exact.
subdivision.
That's correct.
Yeah, but if it's 3 or 4 units.
Separate?
Separate, it's still a subdivision.
I was gonna say, I mean, geez,
Dang.
yeah, I would need that written down too, Kim, I would be.
Hmm.
It's one of those things you write in your hand.
Right, it's like, okay,
And like the idea makes sense where it's like, right, 3 or 4 units in the same structure is not gonna have. That big of an impact on the resources or the land compared to like 3 or 4 separate units. But it's just, yeah, when put in the
Not
word,
necessarily, the infrastructure will be still the same if it's on.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, maybe.
All right. I mean, traffic's gonna be the
Gosh.
same.
Yeah,
Oh,
right,
oh,
yeah.
Utilities will be this you, yes.
you're gonna have like one shared like parking area. So-
Yeah, but coming and going to the site,
Large
Yeah.
car
Your
park.
road.
One large
Sure.
car, exactly.
As you don't need a road that goes. to-
oh, not, well,
Uh,
no, because you might want the unit way back, then
Yeah, no,
nice circle
Yeah,
driveway.
yeah,
Then whoever's developing it's stupid.
yeah.
It would be a parking lot then.
That just doesn't make sense.
No,
Okay,
But yeah, so
oh, good.
My God.
that's the hardest one. The next law.
I love this one.
The next one's easy. The next one that got passed is about parking. This one also might be a challenge, but I think the town, well, I'd be happy if part of it, you know. So the part that I really won't care about is minimum parking spaces in growth areas for residential units, which is you can only require one space per unit. If it's, again, if it's a residential project in a growth area. I mean,
I hate these, I
typically.
hate these things that doesn't allow you to require the rational number of parking spaces for the rational number of vehicles that are very likely to be in that property. I just,
Well, I get why,
in
again,
a town like ours, not in a place with public transportation.
they're thinking there might be public transportation, there's
Yes.
just not.
But not here. Yeah.
And they're thinking like, even if there isn't public transportation, you're living, and the growth area would be in a dense, like walkable.
Yes,
Where you
yes.
can live someplace and work someplace, but again, that's not the case, even if you do live in like Northeast Carver, you may work in Jackson, Labrador Harbor, you're not gonna walk there.
I mean, my child's about to probably gonna move to Norway. I would expect that they don't necessarily need parking spaces in their cities because they have such brilliant public transportation
Right.
everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate this one though, it's not like the worst, even if you do have one space per dwelling unit, people's work shifts are so different and like. You know.
Except at night. Yeah.
And it's up to, again, the town just can't require it. If I'm a
Yeah.
developer, I'm gonna think about what my people that are gonna rent from me want, and I'm gonna try and give them extra parking spaces anyway. But
Or then what? They're gonna park on the street? And we can ban them from parking on the street, right?
you could really.
I mean, with these
Yeah,
narrow
I'm
streets.
Again, has to be off the street, off-street parking,
Yeah.
has to be on the property.
Well, it says you can only require.
So why can't we require two, at least two,
Two.
you know, like husband, wife,
State law
Because
says we
they
can't.
said-
He said so.
we're being more stringent.
You can't, no, this is trying.
No,
to-
we're being,
the inverse.
we're
You're
trying to.
not allowed to be more stringent than the state.
Oh.
Right. So like, either way, how, do they have just one? I mean, probably no one knows yet or what, but I'm just thinking of a subdivision
What was
getting ready
proposed-
to be built.
What was proposed was a
One or two,
driveway
yeah.
with like parking spots.
What there were like
Okay.
14 parking spots, something like that? I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
how Gateway is organized, but affordable based on LE 2003 from last session
Mhm.
gave, like, you can only have one spot for 2 units or something, or no, I can't remember what it was.
so
Yeah,
right, so where do they park?
Some other calculation for affordable housing.
Right, they park on neighborhood I mean, what? Yeah,
But it's,
But it has to be off-street. You
Yeah.
can't
but where they park.
unless they,
I think-
maybe they lease somewhere.
The point that he's
Yeah,
making
yeah.
is if you're gonna develop a property like that
Mhm.
and you're gonna try to sell or rent to somebody, but they don't get a parking space,
Good luck.
that's gonna reduce.
no one's gonna rent it.
Right, well, definitely not around here unless they, I don't.
You know, and that was always a pet peeve when I was in Bar Harbor there, like you would get green space if you
Yeah.
like dedicated parking.
Yeah.
But they never accounted for employees.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
always just like, if it was a 25
Mhm.
room hotel, you need
Yes.
25 spots.
Right, yes.
And if you
yeah.
put green space in front, we're gonna
Yeah.
remove 5 of them, so you only
Yeah,
need
just-
20.
Well, we
Yes,
know we
yes.
don't have enough spots up over here in the new, in
Okay.
Askew.
Oh,
We
yeah,
know we couldn't require enough
Askew.
parking spots in Askew.
Yeah.
I asked that question. It's like,
Mhm.
oh,
Well,
that's all we can do.
they had more parking than what was required.
Yeah, but what was required was like they had each of those cottages and they were only gonna.
Yeah,
park
there was
two
only
vehicles.
60 something.
And
And
then-
then divided 90 something.
I know technically they had enough
Mhm.
and we
They had
couldn't
more.
require any more, but in reality. There aren't enough spaces for all of the use that they were creating and plus the restaurant and blah, blah, blah. And the employees and like you said, anyway, that's neither here nor there, but it was.
Employee housing in like the Cranberry lot or whatever,
Yep.
yeah, they kept all that
And
housing
across
they
the
had
street.
in across, in that big, yeah.
All right, so residential units within commercial zones.
Well, there's one more piece to the parking, which
I'm
is
sorry,
if you, you have to allow off-street parking agreements or off-site, sorry, not off-site parking agreements with an existing parking facility within a quarter mile of the development, so.
The gray cow up here,
Yeah.
that's public,
Public lot or private?
Mm-hmm.
lot?
that's public.
So, yeah, the city or town should probably not enter into these types of parking agreements with
Right.
people.
Right.
But like if someone had like a private lot, like there are uses that this would make sense for, like in Ellsworth. As I'm rewriting their ordinances, I was thinking about this and like there's a funeral home right in the downtown and like those parking spaces are empty
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Mhm.
If someone wanted
Yeah.
to build a small like apartment complex, like near there, within a quarter mile. And I think a quarter mile is a little bit of a long.
Yeah.
Especially like in places that don't have sidewalks, but like, other downtown doesn't all have sidewalks everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
in theory. You could walk a quarter of a mile from a parking spot to this,
Kirby subway stop.
yeah.
Yeah,
to-
Well, that
Yeah.
was just like College Atlantic up there. Their unit,
no, yeah,
students.
God,
They had to have off-street parking and they had to lease a place uptown for about 5 years.
We're like,
and they still park all over our property, but think they're gonna get out of here in the morning before we open. They don't. We pull in, it's like, but
and like,
anyway.
like the parking lot,
Yeah.
Bar Harbor is right in the middle of Cottage Street that you can pay to park at, it's not the town's.
Oh, yeah, but it's never full.
Oh, that's
Well,
not the
never-
town behind there?
I think the one next to Atlantic.
Behind Rite Aid?
Across, no, across from the post office.
Yeah.
That's private,
That's
yeah,
private,
yeah,
yeah.
but no, there's not many cars in there.
Right.
No, there isn't. It's always,
It's expensive is what
Oh,
I've
is it?
heard.
Is that why?
Very
Oh.
expensive, I think,
It's
yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
I always wonder why it's empty.
yeah.
Cause I
that's
first
why.
moved here, I didn't know that was a private lot and I parked there. And it was
Oh,
more expensive than I thought
it is pricey, yeah, that's what I've heard too, but
it was like
$300
$20 for like 30 minutes.
yeah, it's a lot,
Don't quote me, but
Yeah.
it felt like that when I paid it.
yeah, I think, yeah.
But yeah, like you could have an agreement with them, they might, and then prohibit
Mhm.
other people to pay to park in like 4 spots and then just sell those spots essentially, or rent those spots to a housing unit or something like that.
So when would we anticipate starting to get the language that we'll need to review? for
Well,
all
then-
Lovely things.
Well, I guess I'll go over the last one, which is the residential units within commercial zones, but that one, Tim and I already talked about. Allow housing except for the shoreland ones, like. There's one like water-based commercial SC,
Rolling commercial,
yeah, that doesn't allow single for housing in it, so.
Well, don't we allow? No,
Gotta go by the adjacent residential for
right,
regional requirements.
right.
What is the planning board training?
Oh,
What is it?
that's-
Yeah, no, yeah, what, and you
I
remember
mean,
this?
there's not like specific what the training
Oh,
is,
I
but
was gonna say.
the town has to provide training to like all planning board members within like
Oh.
a certain amount of time of.
When they.
Well, there's MMA has either in person or online, a bunch of hours of training, they,
Okay,
every other day. you
I usually
get-
get something
Yeah.
that and I'll send it out to the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every other
Okay.
day you get an essence every day.
So like, once you take the training, whatever certificate MMA gives you, it may not
Yeah.
have to be MMA, you could have a lawyer come in and do it and just
Yeah.
go like.
Huh.
Proof that the lawyer gave. it.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a very good idea, if it's. I didn't think it was the
No,
best
it's not. the best
training
training.
I ever had, but I did it.
Yeah, I. If you really want, I mean, like, it's tough, like MMA is very good for like a very introductory, like. planning
Yes,
training.
yes.
People that have like just signed up for something and really have no idea what. they're
Yes.
signing up For,
Exactly,
uh,
but how to actually function.
right, that's like, that would mean that takes a lot more time and probably a lot more resources.
It sure
They
does,
didn't wanna like force every town to like require that type of training.
it sure does,
Hmm.
and I would love to have some sort of system for ongoing.
Right.
Training for.
I mean, the
planning board
best
members, because
training-
it is such a sticky wicket, it is such a high. bar
Exactly, yeah.
To expect people to.
That and your manual.
Alright,
Mm.
MMA does have a good manual. but-
They do have a good
They
manual.
have a good manual,
But
it is
sit
hard
down
for
and
people
read that
to,
And understand what you're reading if you haven't been on a planning board before is.
it's.
If you can't sleep at night, it's a great book.
I was
It's
gonna say,
dry, it's dry. If I may ask a question, it does touch on planning board stuff. I wondered if, after our last planning board meeting, when I had the big back and forth with Andy about the section of that says that after a subdivision, a lot that's created before 2015 or whatever, doesn't have to comply with the road ordinance requirements, but then the first paragraph says, you gotta make sure that things are. Came away thinking that we could write a better ordinance
We're working
section
on that.
that's clear.
We're working on it.
Thank you.
So
So I got into it, like, but Andy, this isn't how I interpret it.
yeah, I think it's the
too.
4th or 5th time we've changed it since we've
Yeah,
added it to the ordinance, but it's just, we're trying to make a certain,
Which revision is it?
he was, it's,
access. lots, access 6B11. Too,
Yeah.
so we're trying to,
His
Like,
argument was
okay.
that you read each of the three sections separately and you get the power to act under the first section. And I read it as the first section provides the general principle, and then it gets more and more restrictive depending on whether it's a road or a site or a driveway created at before certain
No, the
statutory
15.
changes. And he said, no, you don't. I was like, that's.
maybe a sentence under that should be, where it says, if the lot was created before the May 2015. Driveways and roads don't have to be brought up to either driveway or subdivision standards, and say unless the road is being extended. New or modified. In accordance with. the
Or you could say,
fire
but it still has to allow for safe
well, yeah. I mean,
access
that-
for emergency.
As determined by, we had that before, as determined by the fire chief, because the fire chief knows his equipment, he knows the
Right.
turning radius.
Yes.
He was
Mhm.
complaining about the new trucks getting mirrors broken and
Yes.
scraped up the
Yes.
side and
Yes.
equipment falling off and.
Yes,
But we had that before, but then it was removed. Because it was determined that that was a lot of liability being put on the fire chief.
yes, I understand that.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
came up with this other one, and then,
And now we
You
talk about
find-
it.
I mean, that was just an unusual case anyway.
It wasn't
You're dealing with a
unusual.
lot in Bar Harbor, but
Yeah.
they're using a private
Access
road
thing
that's in
too.
Mount Desert.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
The
really,
entrance is in Mount Desert. but
The whole thing,
oh my God.
Oh,
the whole road
Yeah.
up to, and then the lot, the lot
it
line.
butts the lot line.
Yeah, it crosses a lot line of Mount Desert Bar Harbor, but the lot was in Bar
Bar
Harbor.
Harbor.
But the road was over 2,000 feet getting to their lot.
So the first question was, do we have any jurisdiction at all? Because he's
Right.
actually serving about a lot.
Right,
But beyond all of that, I had real problems with the interpretation of that provision, the way it's worded. It's like,
What was the problem? I mean, I feel like these are all independent statements, and so like,
but how do you, if you say you don't have to meet the, I don't wanna litigate this here, but
Yeah.
if you, nobody's gonna, it doesn't gonna matter to anybody, but if you have. If you have a specific provision that says the road standards don't apply. To this lot, because it was created before this time period. But the first paragraph says you gotta be able to get fire trucks in and so forth. Well, that's one of the purposes of the road standards, it seems to me. And so you could just clarify it all and say, no matter what happens, you gotta allow for emergency vehicles to be able to get in and out safely. And you probably ought to create specific standards about that. There ought to be specific widths and vegetation cutback and all that stuff. But don't just say. None of these requirements are gonna apply to these lots. Underneath having said you've got to allow for, I mean, they just seem to conflict to me, and they seem to diminish your ability to regulate. And get the standards of the first paragraph met, the requirements of the first paragraph met. I just, for me, when you read a piece of legislation and it gets more restrictive in terms of what you can do. It impinges upon the overall principle, which I read for the first piece to be. So I could be wrong. I should preface that always by saying, I probably am wrong. But I got lost in the weeds on that, and it would be, and I either am or am not alone.
Well, you see, the fire chief is requiring modifications. It's a 1-lane road. And everybody come out of the woodworks and says they don't want it changed because it's a country road and they like the looks.
Yeah.
Of it. But yet Mike
Mm.
says we need pull-offs.
Yeah.
And from a certain distance, it is like like a tote road. It's
Mhm,
overgrown, trees and
Mhm.
stuff,
right,
and there's a loop at the top.
mhm.
And a dead end road requires a cul-de-sac, but that wasn't developed. It was grass.
Mhm.
And so
what's at
they
the
were
end?
talking about tankers, huh?
What's at the end of this road?
There's a house lot.
Actually, there's a couple lots and then there's the park.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But it's, but the fire chief was asking for modifications only to the extension up to the.
That's right. That was the other thing. It's like all the letters that the people wrote about not wanting to change
Yeah.
all that was kind of, turns out to be kind of irrelevant. I mean, I understand why they did it, but the fire chief wasn't asking for any changes to that whole portion.
Well, there was mixed feelings, I heard. I mean, I heard that there was, like, the boulders need to be removed, but there's a bridge you can't do nothing about, so that's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they
When
line after the bridge, they'd line it with boulders, so
Yes.
they made it narrow, so it's like,
I went back over that bridge, I thought.
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
I mean.
I mean, they weren't, he wasn't asking for unreasonable stuff. you
Right,
know,
right,
At all,
right.
but, and the people were willing to do it.
They were very nice. They were all very.
They want
they were
fire
all nice.
service, you know, and
Yeah.
then these people wrote letters about the road, and so Mike's like, well, I'm gonna keep these letters in a file.
Yeah.
So that if the insurance company,
Oh,
that
yeah,
people are
yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
and then the poor couple that wanna develop their lot was like, well, we don't want these people to,
Yeah.
have this backfire. You know, but, it was a mess.
And the
I mean,
community
it
was
wasn't-
very
it was-
eager to support them.
It was
because they
unique. It
wanted
was a
them.
weird-
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sticky.
Cause you got,
I
you
think we
know,
got through it, and I think.
cause you got the road in one town, but the property's in another.
Yeah. Huh. So who, 911, I guess Mount Desert and Bar Harbor's the same, but geez, say
But
you
Mount
were.
Desert would be the one because Somersville was like
It's closer.
6 miles.
Yeah.
And Bar Harbor was 13,
Gosh,
so it was like,
yeah, I guess
who's
that's,
gonna
good.
respond first?
Yeah, who's
right?
coming first, yeah.
Yeah, somebody's gonna respond. And
We gotta
Oh,
figure
yeah,
that one
yeah.
out,
it's in the town. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
but we also don't wanna burden people either, that
No,
lot, that
no,
had
no.
lots and just wanna build on them.
right.
Yeah.
You know, but the lot was there, you know, how come we have to go now, and and it's not just. Like in front of you, it's all the way to the public road is what they're
Yeah.
requiring,
Mhm.
upgrades, if the fire chief
Mhm.
feels it needs to be
Be done.
modified.
Yeah, but his letter specifically said from the end of Kelly's property, so it wasn't actually, when I looked at it, I thought, wait a minute, we're not talking about the whole road here.
No, but there was, I think people just assumed it.
I know,
Started,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that road is handled a lot. I mean, my house builder used to live in one of those houses, and boy, and
Mhm.
I'm sure he had a lot of trucks, a lot of Hammond
Well,
or
that's like the.
EBS trucks
gentleman
coming out
said,
there for a long time.
well, this truck's been going here and, you know,
Yeah.
this and that, and there was new houses just brought in and they were modular and they said.
There is a new house that must have been built fairly recently.
Mhm. It was under the
In Mount
jurisdiction,
Desert.
yep, it was under the jurisdiction of me, so I said, I've driven that road, I didn't have any problem with
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
so I was
Mhm.
like.
Oh,
"It's
so,
good to
so,
me."
okay, okay.
But then we brought Mike in and it, on
Mhm.
this application, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh dear, maybe it wasn't good.
Were they able to get a
see.
modular home down it?
2 of them, yeah, 2 modulars.
Good
Wow.
size, huh?
I mean, it's clear, like there's no trees,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
grass,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
field,
Yeah,
but the road.
And there's a lot of
is 10 feet
wetland,
wide.
going over a lot of
Yeah.
wetland
ah,
that you have to
Interesting.
fill in.
and I guess, yeah,
Anyhow, I'm glad that somebody's looking at that
We're
section
looking
and
into that,
and
yes.
see whether or not we can do anything, or Gail just needs to get better educated. It could go either way.
It's just hard, but just trying to please and not make
Overall,
somebody have to have such a burden.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like I had mentioned
Yeah.
to the attorney, I said, if they weren't, you know, if they were not being required to modify it, then yeah, I would agree that they don't have to do the
Mhm.
road standards. But the fire chief said otherwise, because they were extending it. and-
This is like
Yeah.
Kay Moore's family's property, right? And yeah, the end of the hearing, when Kay is hugging the life out of the young couple who want to build the house up at the end, and I mean, it's like, I
well,
mean, it was very sweet. It was very nice.
Yeah.
They all wanted.
They offered to put, you know, do a easement for a pull off, if that was gonna be
Yeah,
adequate
would
on her
help.
lot. and
Yeah.
It was like,
Anyway,
Hmm.
do we have anything more that we want to process for tonight's meeting? And at the next meeting, do we want to be able to work on some of these legislative updates and come back with the stuff that we're talking about for the,
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and get more information on whether or not it'll be worth the effort, like if any of the like, potential challenges are actually closer to moving
Good.
forward or something like that.
Good. So what would we potentially do beyond that if we've got the?
Well, for next meeting, so the planning board will review the subdivision ordinance one more time, hopefully I'll.
Maybe except for, we'll skim over the trailer park, which we work on here.
Oh, and those changes were pretty easy, I could probably have the language ready for that.
Yeah,
So like those are just a couple sentences that wouldn't be huge changes. But I could review it with the lawyer hopefully in between now and the next LUZO meeting too, and then. So the planning board will be done, or probably done with it, and then unless the lawyer has a bunch of big changes. But then I could just bring that to the LUZO committee next month too. the
Okay.
Full subdivision ordinance to walk through it. And like, I mean, even if I haven't been able to make the changes from the lawyer, I could at least have notes on them and just say, okay, this part's gonna change in this way. And to talk over that part, but the bulk of it should be the same as
Okay.
it's currently written, so.
Are there any other provisions that you know of off the top of your head that need work? This next town meeting that you're aware of? I mean, that would be something we want to make sure we,
Off the top of my head, no,
okay, well, if you come up with anything.
yeah.
And should we at some point go to the select board and ask if they're hearing or have anything in mind that they think should be done? Should I just check in with them? I haven't heard anything. I don't want to looking for trouble, but.
Yeah, well, if Rodney was here, I mean.
I know.
But not, well, and no, I mean, I don't know, they don't really ever make suggestions to ordinances except for their own charter, but.
Right, I mean, I know that there are things that float around, like there was the whole business about people putting tables on the sidewalk.
Yeah, but
I think we kicked that back to them.
Yeah, that was
That's
not
not-
favorable, so I think that that's why it
Yeah.
wasn't brought up again. Because a right of way on a sidewalk is just that, it's an access, it's a right of way,
Yeah.
not for you to store tables and chairs and
Mhm.
sell your
Trash
merchandise.
cans,
And sell your merchandise and use town property.
yes. Okay. So we will try to put together whatever we can for an agenda for next time, which would be. Maybe I'll drop Rodney, no, I don't know, maybe he wasn't aware of it. He got it though, Rodney, he got sent the,
You did.
yeah. So it would be October 14th? No, 21st?
The third Tuesday.
Yeah, 21st. Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Anybody else? Thank you for coming. We'll adjourn the meeting. We can officially do it if we want, but I'm not sure we need to, since we're just an advisory group.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Thank you.